On June 25, 2009, Michael Jackson was found unconscious at his Los Angeles home by his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray. Paramedics were called. He was rushed to the hospital. He was pronounced dead. The official cause of death: acute propofol and benzodiazepine intoxication. His own doctor had administered a surgical anesthetic as a sleep aid. And here is the detail that has never sat right with the people who loved Michael Jackson most. Dr. Murray did not tell the paramedics what he had given him, did not tell the emergency physicians at the hospital, did not disclose the propofol until the investigation was already underway. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in 2011. He served 2 years of a 4-year sentence. For Michael Jackson's family, his daughter, and for Katt Williams, who has been more accurate than almost anyone about what goes on inside the entertainment industry, that verdict answered one question and raised every other one. Today we go through what the record actually shows, the documented facts of that night, what Toya Jackson said publicly, what Paris Jackson told Rolling Stone, what Katt Williams said about what MJ knew, and the Sony battle that was raging in the years before his death. Everything is clearly labeled: documented fact, family testimony, public statement. You will always know which is which. Let's get into it. The documented timeline of June 25, 2009 raises questions that the involuntary manslaughter conviction answered only partially. Conrad Murray had been administering propofol to Michael Jackson as a sleep aid for approximately 2 months before his death. Propofol is a surgical anesthetic. It is used in operating rooms with full monitoring equipment and trained anesthesiologists present. It is not a sleep aid. It is not designed for home use. The coroner's report established that Murray had injected Jackson with lethal levels of propofol and other sedatives the night before his death. When Jackson went into cardiac arrest and Murray called paramedics, he did not tell them what Jackson had been given. The paramedics arrived without knowing what they were dealing with. The physicians at the hospital arrived without knowing what they were dealing with. Murray later told investigators he had not informed them of the propofol because he was concerned about the legality of the arrangement. He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years. He served 2. Toya Jackson attended every day of the trial. She was vocal and specific about what she believed the verdict failed to address.
Dr. Murray is a very small piece of the puzzle, she wrote. I feel like screaming. Murray knows exactly what happened at Carrollwood and who else is behind all of this.
Dr. Murray is a very small piece of the puzzle. Murray knows exactly what happened at Carrollwood and who else is behind all of this. A very small piece of the puzzle. From a woman who was present every day of the proceedings and who watched the full evidentiary record presented in court. She also posted, "Whenever someone is murdered, you follow the money trail and you see who has the most to gain. Those are normally the ones responsible." These are not anonymous internet theories. These are documented public statements from Michael Jackson's sister. Paris Jackson gave an interview to Rolling Stone magazine in 2017 in which she said something that most major outlets covered briefly and then moved past. She said her father was murdered.
In an interview with Rolling Stone, Paris claimed that all the pieces of evidence pointed to the fact and only true fans would know it. Absolutely, my dad was eliminated, because it's obvious. All arrows point to that. It sounds like a total conspiracy theory, and it sounds like BS, but all real fans and everybody in the family know it. It was a setup. It was BS.
She was careful about how she framed the responsibility. She did not place the blame solely on Murray. She described it as a chess game. Many people with stakes in the outcome. Complex, interconnected. She said she was playing the chess game carefully and that she hoped to get justice for her father when she had the power to pursue it.
The model and actress said, I definitely do want justice, but it's a chess game, and I am trying to play the chess game the right way. And that's all I can say about that right now. Paris also claimed that she hadn't healed or recovered from her father's demise, but she's learned to live with it. They always say, time heals, but it really doesn't. You just get used to it. I'll live life with the mentality of okay. I lost the only thing that has ever been important to me.
That is Michael Jackson's daughter, on the record in a major publication, saying her father was murdered and that the full picture has not been publicly exposed. We present that as her documented public statement. It is not a verified legal finding. It is what she said, clearly and on the record. Katt Williams, who has been right about enough things in this industry that people stopped laughing at what he says, made specific comments about Michael Jackson's death that circulated widely. His argument was about the name of the tour. This is it. Williams observed that Jackson did not announce that tour with celebration. He announced it with the energy of a man who was tired, who had been fighting something for a long time, and who was giving the world a final goodbye. This is Katt Williams's interpretation. It is his public statement. We present it as such. But the frame he offers is worth sitting with. Michael Jackson spent the years before his death in a documented public battle with the most powerful forces in the music industry. He had accused Sony's Tommy Mottola of racism and conspiracy against black artists. He had described the music business as a system designed to exploit and discard the people who created its value. He had put his name and his platform behind something that made him deeply inconvenient to very powerful people. And then he died at 50 years old, administered a fatal dose of a surgical anesthetic by a doctor whose primary failure was not telling the people trying to save his life what he had given him. Katt Williams said Jackson told us that he gave us the hint that the people paying attention should have seen it coming. That is Williams' stated belief. We note it as that. To understand what was happening around Michael Jackson in the years before his death, you have to understand the Sony battle. In 2002, Jackson stood at a public rally in London and named Tommy Mottola the president of Sony's record division by name. He called him racist. He called him devilish. He accused Sony of conspiring against black artists, holding catalog hostage, and systematically exploiting the people whose music they profited from. The record companies really do conspire against the artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially against the black artists. Sony and Tommy Mottola, he's a racist and he's very devilish.
I'm not going to talk too long because we have the demonstration at Sony, as you know. This is very important because throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of. And it's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice. And like Mrs. Sharpner was saying, people from James Brown to Sammy Davis Jr., some of the real pioneers that inspired me to be the entertainer that I am. These artists are always on tour because if they stopped touring, they would totally go broken. And it's been, the record companies really do conspire against their artists. They steal, they cheat, they do whatever they can, especially the black artists. Yes, and Sony, Tommy Mottola. Tommy Mottola is the president of the record division. He is a mean, he's a racist, and he's very devilish.
He was specific. He named a person. He named a company. He was not speaking in abstractions. Sony released a statement calling his comments ludicrous. The industry largely closed ranks. Mottola denied the allegations. What is documented is that Jackson was in a protracted battle over the masters to his own music, some of the most commercially valuable recordings in the history of recorded music. The ATV catalog alone, which he owned and which included Beatles songs, was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Sony wanted control of that catalog. Jackson died without having resolved that battle. After his death, the estate entered into agreements with Sony that gave the company a financial stake in exactly the catalog Jackson had been fighting to protect. We are not stating that this sequence of events proves anything. We are stating that it is the documented context surrounding his death and that his own family members have publicly pointed to financial motivation as the place to begin looking for answers. Janet Jackson, who was closest to Michael among his siblings and who saw him 2 weeks before his death, described what it was like to receive the news. She was on the set of Tyler Perry's Why did I get married? So, two in Atlanta when the call came. She had spent the weeks before that final visit, talking to Michael constantly, telling him how much she loved the family celebration they had shared. She described turning off the television during the period of theories and speculation because she didn't have the emotional armor for it. People can have rhinoceros skin, but there's a point when something's going to hurt you. Not everyone is stone. That is a woman describing the cost of losing a brother while the world debated what had really happened to him. Paris has described never fully healing, just learning to live with the loss.
Always say time heals, but it really doesn't. You just get used to it. I'll live life with the mentality of okay, I lost the only thing that has ever been important to me.
LaToya has never stopped calling for a fuller accounting. She has maintained publicly for years that what was presented in court was not the complete picture. Here is what the documented record shows. Conrad Murray administered propofol to Michael Jackson as a sleep aid for approximately 2 months. He gave him lethal levels the night of his death. He did not tell the paramedics or the hospital physicians what Jackson had been given. He was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and served 2 years. LaToya Jackson, who attended every day of that trial, said publicly that Murray was a very small piece of the puzzle. Paris Jackson, in a major published interview, said her father was murdered, that it was a setup, and that she was playing a careful chess game to eventually get justice. Katt Williams said Jackson told us what was coming, and that the industry's pattern of eliminating inconvenient people should have made it obvious. The Sony battle was real. The catalog dispute was real. The financial stakes around Michael Jackson's death were real and documented. Whether those facts add up to something more than a tragic medical negligence case, that is a question his own family has answered publicly in one direction, the courts answered it in another. What you believe depends on how much weight you give to the people who knew him best. Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time.